Initiating Movieboys podcast. Still loading. Tempest and Ryan are on their way. Welcome. Please enjoy the show.
So we are back. I am here with my co-host Tempest.
Hello.
And we are going to talk about the latest Jordan Peele movie, Nope. Two siblings who run a California ranch that rents out horses to Hollywood productions discover something sinister in the skies above as their horses begin to disappear, while the owner of an adjacent theme park tries to profit from this phenomenon. They make it their mission to find a way to get a recording of whatever is in the sky at all costs. And I'm going to say we didn't do this with our Thor Love and Thunder review, and I think that it was kind of like a subconscious hate, maybe. We didn't give a spoiler warning, so I'm going to say this is, if you haven't seen this yet, I'd recommend watching it. I think all of our reviews, for the most part, are going to be spoiler reviews, and you should come into them with, having seen it if you want to see the movie. But I would recommend watching it and coming back and listening to this if you haven't sseen it yet.
Yeah, I think if you're even remotely interested in seeing this film, you should not listen to this review and just go see it, because it's one of those movies like it's going to ruin it if you're spoiled, basically. So
for sure. And that's something that right off the bat, I was really, really impressed with the marketing for this movie. I feel like watching it, I think you get a general idea that it's aliens, maybe, but I wasn't 100% sure exactly what it was going to be going in. And I just think that there were so many aspects of the movie, at least with the trailers that I had seen, that weren't spoiled. And I always really, really appreciate that going in.
Yeah, I watched one trailer maybe months ago, and the trailer was pretty vague. So yeah, it was kind of like, it might be aliens, it might be something else. All I knew there was like a horse ranch, and that was basically it. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And then I went and saw it. I feel like, for me personally, I think I'm going to have to give a disclaimer. And I don't think you should have to give a disclaimer for your opinions, because it is what it is. But before people know you, I think there's a difference between something being bad and something not being your personal favorite taste. So if I'm looking at this movie from my taste and what kind of tropes I enjoy in movies, what kind of themes I enjoy in movies, I would say this is not my favorite movie. But for the most part, I don't think there's anything technically wrong with it. For the most part, it's by no means a bad movie. It's just not my favorite, and I don't think I would watch it again, just based off of the things that I tend to enjoy in movies.
I mean, this is still pretty early on in this podcast, so I think making those distinctions and clarifying those things is actually really important, because as we do this for longer, people will get a better sense of the types of genres that we enjoy more than others, and the kinds of tropes that we enjoy more than others. There are plenty of genres and types of movies that I just may not be as into, or may not resonate with me as much. And I think that everyone is that way. And I think that's totally fair.
I just don't want people thinking that it's some copium kind of thing of Tempest hated the movie, but he doesn't want to own it. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's just, I'm basically I'm not really into space movies as a genre, and I'm not really super into aliens as a genre. And a lot of people have been comparing this movie to Jaws. It's aliens and Jaws mixed together, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I could see that.
I didn't even really like Jaws that much. But I'm not going to be here and be like, Jaws is a bad movie, because I don't think Jaws is a bad movie. I'm just not into crazy feral animal / creature attacking people. It's just not something that really resonates with me.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. I thought it would be good to maybe start off with how you felt about, have you seen Jordan Peele's other first two movies?
Yeah, I would say I like Get Out and Us a lot more, just because I find the dynamic of people more interesting than aliens. So I would say I like both of those a lot more. I like Get Out the most, and then I do like Us, but basically how he's released his movies is how I feel them in a ranking order. I don't know how you feel.
I think Get Out is still my favorite. I honestly like this a little bit more than Us. I think that the reason that I like it more is I feel like I appreciate that Jordan Peele left so much more up to the imagination. There's just one scene in Us that kind of didn't totally work for me, and that was at the very, very end where they sort of lay out and explain everything that came before it. That was the only thing that kind of threw me a little bit. And I kind of in horror movies, for me personally, I find it a little bit more unsettling and creepier if things are just kind of left up to the imagination and you don't get an explanation for everything. And I think that this movie kind of did that a little bit better. If we were talking about like preferences, that's definitely a preference that I have. Yeah, I know you mentioned that a lot of people have been saying this definitely had like a Jaws, like Spielberg sort of influence. And I definitely felt that too. It also had kind of like a fun Western kind of influence at points too. Like there's a moment during the climax where this kind of just like this sweeping score comes in when he's riding on the horse. There were moments of this movie that were just really, really exciting and fun, along with the other like horror, like sort of creepier elements to it too, which I thought was really cool. You can say, oh, this part is like Jaws, this part is like Signs, this part is like this. I feel like it takes and blends all of those different movies and makes something unique. And I think that's what the best directors are usually able to do.
Oh yeah, wasn't it like George R. Martin or whatever? He's like great people get influences, other people just steal. Like he's talked about how for the Game of Thrones series, he's like basically it's just actual historical events that have happened, and I just shave off the details and like replace some of them. I'm not saying like stealing exactly, but like using influences of stuff like you like and using them thoughtfully and carefully is nice. I mean, like basically like everything's kind of been done before. It's like how you reinterpret something that's already been told. There's only so many stories you can tell.
Yeah, and that just the way that he blended his different influences together, I found really, really entertaining, and it felt fresh. And even though, like you said, just a lot of these things have been done before. One thing that I thought was really interesting and a twist that I liked was the UFO sort of being this living, breathing creature instead of. So I going in, I had no idea, and there was a scene early on where these kids come into the main character OJ, played by Daniel Kaluuya. They came into his ranch and they were dressed as these kind of stereotypical like gray, big-eyed aliens, and they came in to scare him. And I honestly was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit. I was like, please don't let this be a little spooky alien. I don't know. It was a little bit corny to me, and I was kind of worried, but it turns out that they were just kids in costumes. I appreciated that this took a kind of non-traditional route. At least I haven't seen a UFO represented as this kind of interesting creature that sort of, and at the end it kind of unfurls and almost looks like
a jellyfish. Yeah,
which I thought that design was so cool, and just it looked very organic. I think that a shittier director would have tried to make it look overtly spookier when it unfurled, and maybe like give it like redder eyes or like big teeth. And I don't, and it just looked kind of organic.
Alien.
It looked alien, but it almost reminded me of the way that, have you seen Arrival?
I have not.
I'm trying to think of a good way to describe this. It's more naturally occurring and less like we're overtly trying to scare you. It just seems like these are creatures that could exist in another universe, and they're not, again, designed to be overtly spooky for the audience. But it was still, in the sense that it feels foreign to us, is still a little bit unsettling because of that. And that to me made it creepier in a weird way. And I loved that initial scene where it's like sucking people up. I didn't find a lot of this to be very, very scary. I'm not like, I feel like horror movies, it takes a lot for them to get me. But the one scene that I did find really, really creepy and unsettling was when this UFO creature was sucking people up from the ranch, and you saw them sort of just compressed and compacted into this, like, I guess it's creepy esophagus. That part really got me. It's like I'm kind of a claustrophobic person, honestly, so that I felt like that was really, really effective.
One thing I thought was kind of weird was you don't really get a good glimpse of what this thing looks like until closer to the end. And when they were showing like little, like kind of like not like sneak previews, but you know what I mean. Like it's not very well established in the shot. It's kind of more like just a glimpse. When they showed it like descending on the like the Starlight Express, like that little like, ranch dude area, and they showed it from underneath. I kid you not, I thought it was a cowboy hat, like a giant cowboy hat, and I thought that's what it was for a second, because it kind of like if you know like if you look at a cowboy hat, like it's got that rim, and then it's got the hollow part where like your head goes, and that's kind of what it looked like from underneath it. And when they show it like swooping down, I was like, is it just a giant cowboy hat? And then I was like, oh, no. It's actually like kind of more like a disc shape, you know, kind of creature. I was like, okay, this makes more sense. But first I saw it, I was like, it's a cowboy hat. Because I'm still trying to figure out the movie at this point. I'm like, is it actually a thing? Or is it like people's like paranoia? Is it like cloaking as something? Is it like disguise? Like, what is it supposed to be? Like, is it someone's dream and it's a giant cowboy hat? Like, I'm just trying to figure it out.
This is Jordan Peele's like B-side nightmare or something like that from one of his comedy sketches.
Oh, one thing that kind of bothers me a little bit, I don't know how you feel about this. I thought for most of the movie that the beginning scene with, what is it? What's the chimp? Bobo?
I'm forgetting the name of the chimp, but yeah, for people who I guess are listening to this and haven't watched it, the entire movie is sort of framed around these scenes that you're given some explanation for, but with this sitcom that took place in the 80s with this chimp that kind of goes crazy and kills people involved with the production because of these balloons pop, and the chimp gets like really, really uncomfortable and freaks out. And one of these kills people. And one of these younger kids who's an actor on the show witnesses it and ends up getting spared by the chimp. And then later on is living near OJ and his family in this sort of like amusement park that's partially sort of dedicated to this show. And he's kind of, in a way, like profiting off of it still, like profiting off of his trauma, which I thought was kind of sad and interesting.
He was like a child actor. So he was on that TV show that had the chimp, but then he was on like a different TV show or like a movie that was called Kid Sheriff. And then they did an amusement park based off of the movie he was in called Kid Sheriff. And then he was there. But then because he was also a child star, he had that room, which was all memorabilia from the show. What's the name of the fucking monkey? This is going to bother me. Like Chucky?
Gordy. It was called Gordy's Home.
Yeah, that was the chimp. So he has like that side room with all like Gordy's Home memorabilia, and he's like, yeah, someone paid me $50,000 to sleep in here once, and it's very creepy. It's basically like there was like a tragedy on the television set, and then people are just fascinated by it. So they want to be around the memorabilia or whatever. The one thing that bothered me about this is I thought for most of the movie that these two things were going to be connected, that whatever made the monkey go crazy or like was connected to like what was eating the horses. Like I thought they were the same thing, but they were two different things. And I don't understand. They show this scene of like after the carnage happened, after Gordy goes crazy and starts killing people and attacking them, where there's this shoe standing completely upright, unnatural. Like a shoe would fall over. Like it's standing upright, kind of weird, and it's got like a little blood drop on it. And they keep showing this shoe, and it's like, why is the shoe standing upright? And I was like, is this like connected to the alien? And it didn't seem like it was at all. I have seen no explanation of how these two are connected. I've just seen a lot of people talking about how they're just like two different events, and it's about like he's commenting on how there's like this spectacle and this like tragedy that happened, and then people are still interested in like spectacle and tragedy going forward. I don't know. What did you think of that?
I kind of looked around online to see what other people had thought as well. And yeah, I definitely think the two are disconnected, but I do appreciate that he's sort of left a lot of things like this open-ended because it's going to create some interesting discussion. But I felt like maybe it just sort of represented the kind of 1 in a million thing that could happen. Like if you flip a coin, the possibility of it landing on like the edge is so low, but it could technically happen. And that's kind of what I see, what I saw that as kind of like a metaphor for, I guess, the shoe. This monkey freaking out and something bad happening and like an animal losing it like that is not the most likely thing in the world, but it could happen. That's maybe what I saw it as, but I have no idea. I think it could be something else, and I'd be interested to see if anyone wants to comment on what their interpretation of this was. I definitely was expecting it to connect more overtly to the main plot. I kind of liked the decision to leave it separate in a way, because it just kind of played well to the overall theme of you can't tame these creatures like fully. You can to an extent, but you're never going to completely control them, and they're never going to be completely predictable. And that's plays into, OJ eventually having to tame this UFO and like use what he's learned with the horses.
Oh, I know, like, in general, I'm no way bitching about like VFX work, as far as like the VFX artist didn't do a good job. When you have the CGI level that we've seen in the recent Planet of the Apes movies, and then you go back to this CGI, I feel like that the chimp did not look good in this. Like, it was clearly CGI, and it just didn't look very good, in my opinion.
I actually completely agree with that. In the Planet of the Apes movies, it looks just fucking incredible. Like, there are scenes where you could take a still and might think it's photoreal. But yeah, this was definitely not on that level. And I'm not sure why either. Because I feel like it was, and
Cost?
I mean, yeah, see, but the thing is, it's in so few shots, which really surprised me. Like, it's not like with the Planet of the Apes movies, it's like every fucking shot. But I don't know. That kind of surprised me. It didn't completely ruin it for me, but yeah, I will also say, and this is a stupid Ryan brain thing. I found it creepy and eerie, this scene, but there was part of my brain that was like, huh, silly monkey. Did you feel that one? I know it's a psychotic opinion, but I was like, oh, he just needs a little boop on the nose. I don't know. There's just part of my brain that was saying that, and I was like, stop it. But it's just, monkeys are just, they're cute and they're funny, and I can't. Even if I see them doing something horrific, I'm like, they wouldn't do that to me though. There's no way.
Oh my god.
I know.
He just needs a friend.
He just needs a little buddy. It's just like that instinct when you see like a massive, terrifying bear that you're like, he just needs a hug.
Oh, yeah.
His little bit. Have you seen his little ears? You know what I mean? I don't know. There's just some part of my brain that thinks that, even though I know that's the dumbest shit in the world. But
yeah, if he's dangerous, why is he friend shaped? Yeah, I didn't feel that way when I looked at the monkey, just because that monkey was fucking drenched in blood. Like, it was like he just got splashed by the blood coming out of the elevators and The Shining. Like, he was soaked in blood. So I did not have a reaction of like, oh, cute monkey. It was kind of more like, oh god, it's gonna kill us. Like, that was what was going through my head at the time.
Overall, I found it like a very interesting choice to not just overtly sort of explain what everything meant, and it makes me think directly about Us, and how at the very end of that movie they do kind of overtly explain everything. Not to give, I don't want to give away things in a movie that we're not reviewing, but they do sort of overtly explain the plot and what everything means. And I don't know, it makes me wonder, maybe since Jordan Peele has a little bit more clout now, maybe they allowed him to kind of withdraw a little bit more information. And I'd be really curious to learn if he has an explanation, like a definitive one, or if maybe there was a deleted scene or something that kind of spells it out a little bit more. I'd love to learn, at least, if the studio like pushed back on that at all.
Yeah, it would be interesting behind the scenes to find out. Oh, this is gonna seem really petty, but I fucking love Keith David, and I'm really sad he wasn't in the movie for long.
I totally agree. When he showed up, I was so excited. Keith David is he's an actor that I think everyone wants him to just be their dad or their father figure. He's just so wholesome and wonderful. Great. I totally agree.
It's like he dies right away, and I'm like, oh damn it, really? I wish he was used more. I wish they developed they had more, like, I wish the dad was just around for longer, like develop him more in the movie. And they kind of did the thing in this movie where it's like they kind of imply that the sister is like gay or bisexual or whatever. I think it would have been interesting if like they had like the dad and the son in the beginning talking about like, oh no, she moved in with her girlfriend, or like talking about it like that way. And then also like maybe like after the dad dies, maybe like show her like on the phone with OJ, like with like her girlfriend in the back or something. Just make it more overt.
Yeah, I didn't even notice.
You didn't? I forget what, there was two scenes basically where they implied that she was queer, and I forget the first one, but there was a second one where they're at that electronics store and she like hits on a girl.
Oh, okay. No, I did catch that. It was just such a small little. It was like in the Thor Love and Thunder movie where Valkyrie kind of like kisses that girl's hand like very briefly. I don't know.
It felt a little bit better than the Thor. Just I'm sure like anyone who's queer can probably tell like the way she was dressed. It was a bit more less male gazy, more interested in like it was just more queer. Like the people who get it, and anyone who's like, what? Like they're not gonna get it. But like I could tell that she was meant to be gay.
I enjoyed her character in the movie. I think that it's always tough to include a sort of like comic relief type character in any movie. And I think doing it in a horror movie is even more difficult. And I think that she was just such a breath of fresh air and was so fun, especially in contrast to Daniel Kaluuya's character, who's very like kind of a stereotypical, like sort of Western type of stoic masculine character. She was such a good counterpoint, such a good character to play off of him. At least I thought.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job. Keke Palmer, as that's the actress who played her. I thought she did a good job as his little sister. They played well off of each other. I want to see her in more stuff. I know Keke Palmer has been around forever, but she's been starting to get more mainstream roles lately, and I hope this just continues for her because she was great.
Yeah, this really did feel like a perfect role for her. And on top of the sort of like you can't fully tame nature, or you can't fully tame like creatures theme, I felt like the other theme that I appreciated about this and sort of running sort of bit that they had was just how crew members and people who work on film in sort of the smaller, more underappreciated positions are kind of pushed to the side and not fully given enough credit. And Black people who working in the film industry in these positions especially are not given enough credit. Because they established that his ancestor was the very first person to actually ride in the first motion picture on a horse. They explain at the very, very beginning that he wasn't really given credit for it. And they sort of parallel that with Daniel Kaluuya, his character OJ, wanting to capture this first shot of this UFO creature and having this really pretentious, like documentarian, like cinematographer guy trying to want to get another shot, even though he risked his life to get this shot the first time, and just saying like, oh, well, it's almost golden hour. We need to try to get another shot of it, even like, despite how dangerous it is, just being fully willing to put their lives in danger again, just out of pretentiousness. Honestly, I thought that was a really good way to illustrate the way that people in these positions are treated. And it felt like such a perfect touch that he was wearing like the Scorpion King like crew shirt during that whole sequence too. That was such a good little that was such a good little reference just to further kind of put that theme into the forefront and just show that these people are frequently pushed to the side by these auteur director type people and just not given enough credit, even though they're doing some of the hardest work. I think that was a nice acknowledgement by Jordan Peele.
I thought it was funny when they were talking about the Scorpion King and they're like, yeah, we were the horse trainers, but they went with camels instead. I'm like, I've seen the Scorpion King like 4,000 times. There is a bunch of horses in that movie.
Oh,
it's
shit.
Just the main the main character, like Matthias, Dwayne Rock's character in the Scorpion King, he doesn't use a horse; he uses a camel.
I did not catch that. Well, I don't know. I appreciated the reference was to something that they didn't necessarily get to really use as many horses in, but it was still like precious and meant something to them because it was their first. I appreciated that. I
have a Scorpion King story that's like inside tea. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, that'd be great.
So, okay, I just want to preface this by saying like, I have no reason to believe that this person was lying when they tell the story, but also at the same time, the story is hearsay and it could be like completely full of shit. So just so that's out there. I knew someone who was basically like a professional hair and makeup artist, and one of their friends was crew for like hair and makeup on the Scorpion King movie. And they were saying how apparently this was like Dwayne The Rock Johnson's first feature film where he was the lead actor. and apparently he was like a huge like diva queen on set.
Oh no.
And yeah, apparently people hated him for it. And then eventually, what happened was Michael Clark Duncan, who's also in that movie, basically like pulled Dwayne aside and was like, "Look, you're being a bitch. Like, you need to stop acting like that." And like I'm kind of paraphrasing the story, but like apparently he kind of like gave him some words of wisdom of like, you can't act like this on movie sets. Like, you know, just because you're the lead in this movie doesn't mean like you're better than anyone else. And apparently, like Dwayne really like respected Michael like coming and telling him this, and he like completely changed his attitude, and he was like better to work with after that talk.
That's amazing. I don't know. I thought that story was going to end much worse. I thought it was going to be like in The Rock said, "Fuck you," and then said the verse from Face Off. And was like, "It's about drive." I don't know.
It's about power.
That's the origin of that lyric. No, that's actually a really nice story. It's at least he, I don't know, hopefully like learned the error of his ways. There's nothing worse than learning about like just piece of shit directors and actors just acting like assholes and acting like they're more important than people, like other people, like, because you're just making pretend in a movie. Please calm down, please. What you're doing is, it's cool, it's fun, people enjoy it, but just calm down. You know what I mean? Like, tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, I have no clue if that story is actually real or not. But again, this person who told it to me, they have no reason to lie, and it's not like a bad story. So I'm assuming it's true. But in the off chance that that didn't happen, everything I just said was like allegedly.
I will say that I'm sure that the price of Scorpion King crew merch has just gone through the roof. I bet people are hunting for hats and like shirts. Like
anything
crazy, any merch, or just because of this movie. I don't know, it felt perfect that it was a movie like The Scorpion King that they referenced in this, and I really liked that they and also the TMZ guy that comes in and just kind of is just obsessed with, no, please, like as he's about to be sucked up and killed by this thing. Even though OJ wants to save him, he's just like, I want you to get a shot of this. It was, I mean, not so subtle commentary, but it felt very real. And I just remember reading that, what's his name? Logan Paul had this whole tweet thread about how he hated this movie. And people were like, oh, I bet he totally hated it because that one guy is basically him and the whole Suicide Forest thing. It's like, I liked that whole running theme, and I felt like that social commentary was pretty effective, at least for me.
I thought that helmet thing that the TMZ guy was wearing was fucking freaky.
It really was. I wasn't sure what the fuck that was at first. I've never seen a helmet like that. It was basically, for people who haven't seen it, it's like completely, it almost looks like a mirror. It's completely reflective and silver. And then there's like a single, like it almost looks like a camera lens on the front of it. It was very, very strange looking. I
would not want to wear a helmet like that if I was motorcycling. Like, it doesn't seem very safe. Like it almost seemed like a cosplay helmet. Like I don't. It was very freaky. I wonder if there's like a reference with that helmet that we're just not getting.
I think that it must be. It's so distinctive that I feel like it had to be referencing something. I don't know.
So what did you think of the ending with like the wishing well and the like blowing up the creature?
Yeah, it was what ended up taking the creature down was very, very simple, but I thought it was still a suspenseful moment with her trying to get the photo at the very, very end. I mean, it still definitely makes you wonder, like, is this still going to be enough for people? Like, it was a very, I mean, it was a clear photo, but still, it's not. I mean, if Antlers hadn't essentially killed himself to try to get a second golden hour shot, that I'm sure that footage would have been much more effective in convincing people. I feel like that little photo at the end is I don't know if that's going to be enough to convince everyone, but they do leave things kind of open-ended there, and it's kind of unclear where they'll go from there. How did you feel about the ending?
I thought it was a little like, I guess that's the whole point of the movie, is that these people are kind of obsessed with getting the final shot, like getting the thing on film. Like, I know Jordan Peele's used the word like spectacle a lot. Like, people are obsessed with spectacle. It's like the rubbernecking thing when you see like a car accident on the highway and you just have to look. It's like that thing inside people where they're just like very nosy. So like it is effective in the sense of like you're about to die, but like you're still trying to get a photo of the creature, and like it's killed all these people. So that kind of made sense. But also like my personal thing was like, God damn it, just like get out of there, like just leave the alien thing alone. I did think it was clever. This alien is both like smart and stupid, how it basically ate a giant like blow up balloon inflatable thing.
I think that something that Jordan Peele is really good at doing, and like all good directors are good at doing, is just coming up with really strong, kind of weird visuals that stick with you. Like for us, I always think of the Hands Across America shot where it ends and everyone's like linking hands, and that drone shot just coming out and showing that all of these people are connecting all in their red jumpsuits are just connecting hands. Like I think of that. But with this movie, I'm definitely going to think of that ending. Yeah, the ending scene with that giant inflatable guy and just all the inflatable men that they use to determine when the UFO is nearby and it's like shutting down the power. Basically, they set up these inflatable men like all over the ranch, and yeah, it's just to essentially show when the UFO is coming by, the power will go out and the inflatable dancing guy will fall down. But I just thought that was such a fun, like memorable image. Like I think like a lesser director would choose like just a light or something simpler.
Yeah.
But it's just I think it almost goes back to his like it's just his comedy background, and I think that just makes it way more entertaining and just more entertaining visually. And I think he's good at like sort of peppering those types of things just throughout his movies, and I think this one is no different.
Oh, all the night footage in this movie looked really beautiful.
It really did.
It's probably like the best night footage I've ever seen in a film, because it was obviously very dark, but it was still very clear and distinct, and you could see everything really well.
He worked with Christopher Nolan's cinematographer, Hoyt van Hoytema. I think I'm like probably butchering his name, but he's also shot Interstellar, Tenet, Dunkirk, Ad Astra, and yeah, I think that it's such an amazing pairing because yeah, those night shots looked incredible. There was an amazing shot where they showed the Fry's electronics guy, and he's sort of out of focus, and you see the alien in the background, and it is golden hour, and it's you see the sun setting and just the alien kind of unfurled in the background, and it's just beautiful.
I feel like this is definitely a COVID film in the sense where it didn't feel like there was a lot of people, which is fine. I don't think it needed a shit ton of people, but man, where were all the fucking horses? Like, when you see all the shots of this horse ranch, it's fucking huge. Like, it's probably at least like 100 acres, or maybe it's a big ranch, and there's like no fucking horses. And I know in the beginning, like, you see more, and then they talk about how like he's on a hard time, so he's like selling the horses to the guy who's running the amusement park, and then he's feeding the horses to the aliens. So like obviously the horses are going away, but still, like, you would think if they're ranchers that specifically are directing or like training horses for films, like usually films have like shit tons of horses in them. Like think of like any films that have like war scenes where like everyone's on a fucking horse. You think there would just be more horses, like just like kind of in the background, just like walking around or whatever. But there was like no horses other than the ones that they were riding, or like if they were in like a stable or a barn and they're showing the horse. Justice for more horses. There needed to be more horses in this film. But also I get why they didn't want to probably deal with that many fucking horses, because you have to deal with like, what is the animal doing? It needs to stand here in the shot, and you don't like, also they just poop everywhere, and that would look fucking disgusting. I don't know if you noticed this, but there's like no horse poop anywhere in this film.
I wonder if they were just trying to illustrate that this business isn't doing as well since his dad passed away, I guess. But
when you're working with a horse, they're easier to handle if someone's riding them.
Yeah.
And you can't just have like, okay, there's 50 horses in the background of the shot, and they all have riders, or they all have a horse wrangler with them. Like it's just not going to work out. So I understand like logistically why they didn't do it, but like I used to I've joked about this quite a bit, but like I used to be a horse girl, and I used to do horseback riding a lot when I was a kid, and then later on I worked at a horse rescue, and there's just like a certain way that like a barn and like stables kind of look, and like pasture, like how just like aesthetically how it looks, and it just didn't look right, because it looked like the horses weren't living there. And I know this is like most people are just not gonna fucking care about this because like most people are like not that into horses or know that much about horses. But it was just something I noticed. It was like they clearly built this as like a set, or like this was someone's house who didn't have horses, and they just built like the barns and the outbuildings like there or something, because it just didn't look like there was horses actually living and working on this ranch.
No, I think that's an interesting perspective. That's not something that I would have thought of, but I definitely think it's still valid. I mean, like the space did look beautiful, but yeah, I mean, if you're saying that it didn't look like a place where horses would actually stay, I think that's a fair point.
Well, there would just be like, just imagine like there'd be where all the horses would walk, there'd be like divots and like tracks in the ground and mud patches, and then also there'd be like poop and like feeding stations and like more watering holes, and it would just look more like, yeah, it looks like 50 horses have been here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that also, I again, like I would love to like be able to ask Jordan Peele questions like, why wasn't there more horses? No, but like it looks fucking ugly. There's that many horses there, so like it could have been like a conscious decision as well to be like, okay, we want these shots to look nice, and there's not like big piles of horse poop.
See, you laugh, but he would probably appreciate a question like that on the fucking press junkets that these people have to do, and they just get the same fucking questions over and over, like, oh my god, what was it like working with this actor? I'm sure they get literally the same question like 50 times, so I'm sure that they would appreciate something about like something a little bit different. That's a more kind of technical question. In all seriousness,
I've noticed on the things where I've been watching Jordan Peele talk about this, and there was even that tweet, but like, have you noticed everyone's been like sucking Jordan's dick off about this, being like, oh my god, he's like the greatest horror director of our generation, like 3 for 3, can he do anything wrong? How does it feel to be amazing? It's funny watching him trying to be like guys, like tone it down, like it's just a movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just seeing that, I think you were referring to that tweet where I think it was like a film critic or somebody who was like, oh my god, he's already cemented himself as the best horror director of all time, and Jordan Peele responded and was like, I don't know about that, which is very, very humble and great. I mean, yeah, I agree. People get weirdly obsessive over any directors and actors and stuff, and I think that he's made 3, in my opinion, good movies. I think everyone will have a different opinion as to how good each one is, but he's doing a good job so far, and I'm excited to see whatever he makes next. And it's nice. I think I think we could probably start kind of moving into our final thoughts. And I think I would say that I just appreciate that there are directors like Jordan Peele making original movies, and you know, like still he's like writing his own scripts and just trying his best to like come up with unique stuff, because people so often will say like, oh, this is the next Jaws, or this is the next XYZ. And it's nice to have something. It's nice to think like, hey, maybe like 10, 20 years from now, somebody will say, oh, this is kind of like the next Get Out, or like the next Nope, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to think of it. And it's nice that in an age where you're getting just nonstop Marvel movies and just things that are based on existing IPs. Like, for example, Jordan Peele was apparently, I just learned this today, was offered to direct a live action version of Akira, and he turned it down. And I think that's I find that admirable personally. Like, it would be cool to see what he would do with that, but at the same time, I would much rather just see like his own like unique, like original ideas. And I think for that reason alone, I would recommend this. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this down the line, like how it's going to stand up. I mean, I feel like there's always a recency bias for me. Like, I saw this last night and was pretty excited about it. Maybe I'll like it more after I see it again, but maybe I'll like it a little bit less. I don't know. But for now, I feel pretty positive about it. I think I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a really good, solid film. I think if you're, again, what I said at the beginning, if this is like your kind of wheelhouse of like what you like, you're like, I like monster / like crazy creature attacking people, and like people like the interactions between like humans versus creatures, I think you're really going to enjoy this. I think it just like for me, like if you don't give a shit about that, like if you saw Jaws and you're like, yeah, whatever, like you're probably not going to enjoy this as much. But I would still say it's like, I don't know. I don't want to be like one of those people be like, go support people and like spend your money, because it's not your fucking job to like support people. But at the same time, if this is what you want to see, like you want to see more original content, you want to show people that like, I hate the fucking vote with your dollar thing, but essentially like if you care about that, I think it's a good movie to go see, and not like as a pity support thing, but like as an actual genuine show of support. So I don't know about like I'm trying to do my narrative reviews. I guess, don't people normally like go see horror movies with like on dates or whatever? I guess, yeah, go do that. Like you got a date with a cutie, bring him to this film, and try not to spill the popcorn when they get scared.
And that's good. I still remember we definitely overheard some people saying like, oh, this is so weird. Like after seeing this, and it's funny because when me and my girlfriend Michelle, we saw Us, there was this couple that walked up to us like right after the movie, and they said, "What did you think of that?" And they just said it with like a weird tone, and we were like, "Oh, I really liked it. I thought it was interesting." And we started talking about it a little bit, and then they just said, "It was just weird," and then they just walked away, and that was it. That was the interaction we had, and we were like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, and I think that there are going to be people who walk away from this movie thinking that, and that's what Marvel brain has done to people. And I think it's a disease, and it needs to be cured. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, if you want to see more stuff like this, I think it's worth going out to support it. And also it's fun. I think you'll have a good time.